Hi there, Richard Fulmer here. Welcome to another edition of Richard's Rock Rambles, the channel where we look at rock music in all its different forms, different subgenres, classic rock, prog rock, rock, jazz, rock fusion, blues rock, you name it, we cover it on the channel. So we're going to carry on with our prog rock look, our prog rock journey. And today we're going to feature a band that perhaps some people may not put in this subgenre, but I think they warrant an inclusion in the prog rock genre, and I'm talking about Pink Floyd. You know, perhaps not all of their stuff is prog rock, but I think they did enough in the early to mid 70s to warrant an inclusion. Long extended passages, great guitar work, keyboard work, just an amazing band. And they started out as more of a psychedelic band with Sid Barrett, the original guitarist. But then once David Gilmour had joined on guitar, they took an entirely different direction, which would definitely put them in the prog rock genre. They went on until I think the early 2000s with concerts and what have you. So sadly, no longer around. Two of the members have passed on. Them being Sid Barrett, who died on the 7th of July 2006, age 60, and Richard Wright, who passed away in the 15th of September 2008, age 65, from cancer. So two of the guys have passed on. They started in London in 1965, way back when. The original members were Sid Barrett on guitar and vocals, Nick Mason on drums, Roger Waters bass, vocals, and Richard Wright keyboards and vocals. I think they got together in the student world back when in the 60s, gravitated toward each other, had similar tastes. I think in those days, Richard Wright was quite a driving force within the band, but unfortunately he would get involved in drugs and he would go totally off his rocker, and that was the end of that, and they had to replace him. And they replaced him ably with David Gilmour, who took the band in an entirely different direction. So I'm going to chat about a few albums that I have. I don't have all the Pink Floyd, but I think I have the ones that cemented their place in the rock world, especially in the 70s, and I think in the prog rock genre. So let's start off with an album from 1970, one of my favorites, Metal. This album starts and ends with two amazing tracks. It starts off with One of These Days. The complete title of that is One of These Days I'm Going to Cut You Into Little Pieces, which is interesting. And ends with the track Echoes, which is an amazing track with that submarine pinging sound. Goes into some great dual vocal harmonies with Richard Wright and David Gilmour. And then goes into another extended piece with some great bass work from Roger Waters and some great drumming from Nick Mason. You know, Nick Mason, for a drummer, he's not a very adventurous guy, but I think he did just enough within the Pink Floyd style of music. This is a remastered version, came out in 1992. It's been reissued a number of times, I think. See if I can show you anything on the inside. I think there's a great band shot here. There we go. So there we have Mr. Waters, Nick Mason, David Gilmour, and Richard Wright, sadly no longer with us. This also has quite a bit of info. It has the lyrics as well, which is great when you're talking about Pink Floyd. The song lyrics are always interesting, especially with writers like David Gilmour and Roger Waters especially. So this is a great album. The middle tracks, A Pillow of Winds, Fearless, Saint-Tropez, and Seamus, were more sort of poppy. Not prog in any way, shape or form, but still really good tracks with some nice guitar work. There's a nice blues number on here. I think that's Seamus, where they even use a dog to howl into a microphone along with the guitar, which is quite cool and quite unique, I think, for those times. So that's Metal, one to check out. Then we move on to their iconic, game-changing album from 1972, Dark Side of the Moon. Folks, if you don't have this in your collection, you're missing out, and I would urge you to get it in any way, shape or form, whether it be vinyl, CD, cassette, whatever, you need this. This has sold gazillions of copies. This is a remastered version from 1992, the 20th anniversary edition. And yeah, let me see if I can show you anything. There's quite a few shots in here of the band, which is quite cool, live shots. Plus, obviously, it's got all the lyrics to each track, and the lyrics for this album are great. It's sort of like There's Another Great Shot of the Band. It's kind of a concept album about time and death and fear, things like that. And as I said, it would become an iconic album. Some great shots as well. So the tracks on here are Speak to Me, Breathe, On the Run, Time, which would be a big hit for them, starts off with all those clocks going. The Great Gig in the Sky, which has got some... Claire Torrey, I think, was her name, the vocalist who came in to sing in that track. Amazing voice. Her register is high, right down low, full of emotion. I've heard other people do that track, but nothing beats the original, for me anyway. So that's The Great Gig in the Sky. Then you get Money, which is another big hit off here, with the Tools and starting out and talking about, you know, greed and money and what have you. Us and Them, which is another great track. Any Color You Like, Brain Damage, and Eclipse, which ends with a heartbeat. The album starts with a heartbeat and it ends with a heartbeat. You have to have this album. It's amazing. So David Gilmour vocals, guitars, and VCS3, which was a synth. Nick Mason percussion, tape effects. Richard Wright keyboards, vocals, VCS3. Roger Waters bass guitar, vocals, VCS3, and tape effects. All lyrics by Roger Waters. So yeah, he would become a very important cog within the Pink Floyd machine as far as songwriting goes. Especially later on, where it became very much the Roger Waters show, which caused a bit of a rift. So there we go, Dark Side of the Moon, a must-have. So they followed that up in 1975 with Wish You Were Here, another amazing album of theirs. Shine On You Crazy Diamond, Welcome to the Machine, Have a Cigar, Wish You Were Here, and Shine On You Crazy Diamond Part 2. Very much an album about corporate greed and record company greed and that kind of thing. Where a lot of that was going on in the 70s, especially with, you know, successful bands like Pink Floyd. Everybody wanted to get their snout into the trough and see what they could get out of the bands. So you could see Mr. Waters' cynical outlook on things, especially in this album. There's lyrics, some great shots as well, great cover art. There we go. I think this was Hypnosis who did this cover, Storm Thorgerson's work. A couple of shots of the guys in the studio. The weird thing about this album is while they were recording it, and of course Syd Barrett had already left the band a few years before, and Roger Waters said to David Gilmour, "Who's that guy sitting in the corner of the studio over there?" Didn't recognize him. What was he doing there? Turns out it was Syd Barrett, who just snuck in while they were doing this recording. And strangely enough, the album is actually, a lot of the songs are about Syd Barrett, especially Shine On You Crazy Diamond and Wish You Were Here. And there he turns up. It was really weird. Didn't say much to them, and then he left. So yeah, that was quite a weird thing that happened there. So that's Wish You Were Here. Then we move on to my favorite Pink Floyd. The Dark and Brooding Animals. All about man's inhumanity to animals and the control and fighting back, things like that. Very dark album. I love that cover as well. The Battersea Power Station in the UK. So what do we have on here? Pigs on the Wing. There's not many tracks. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pigs on the Wing Part 1. Dogs. Pigs, 3 different ones. Sheep and Pigs on the Wing 2. So yeah, this is an amazing album. One of my favorites. This is also, I think, a remaster with some incredible guitar work from Mr. David Gilmour. Really coming into his own, I think, on this album. Once again, you have the lyrics, which is a must. And you have some great shots. There's one of the power station as well. So yeah, I just love the darkness of this album. You put this on with the lights off, it's a great effect. It's not a happy album, but then Pink Floyd never did happy clappy stuff. You didn't see flowers and bunnies on the front of their album covers. But for that type of album that it is, it's amazing. This is a great remaster. The sound on here is really good. Some nice acoustic work as well on here, especially the intros to the songs. And great keyboard work, as usual, from Richard Wright, who I don't think got enough credit within Pink Floyd. And he kind of left in the beginning under a bit of a cloud, but he did come back later. So there we go. That's Animals. Then we move on to a concept album again, which become a huge hit for the band. And of course, I'm talking about The Wall, which is a double album. There are so many hits on this album. In the Flesh, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, which became a massive hit here in South Africa, as I'm sure it did in the rest of the world, with that kiddies choir in the background singing. Mother, Goodbye Blue Sky, with some really emotive guitar work from David Gilmour. Of course, the best guitar work on here is Comfortably Numb on the second disc, where Gilmour just shines. It's just amazing. And I've seen them do that live. Well, I see Roger Waters, when he came out to South Africa, he did that number. And both guitarists who did that on the night were amazing. Hey You. Yeah, it's quite a long album. Once again, very dark, very Roger Waters. A lot about the death of his father, who passed away in the Second World War. And Roger Waters' anger towards authority and the futility of wars. And this would go on into the next album, and in fact into some of his solo stuff. You know, he's never really gotten over that whole death of his father thing. And so this came out in 1979, on the cusp of the 80s. And it would go on to be a massive solo for the band. There was a movie that came out which featured Bob Geldof from the Boomtown Rats as Pink. And the movie would also do big business. I remember going to watch it here at a theatre, local theatre here, a midnight show. Amazing. Had to see that on the big screen. So that's The Wall. Then we move on to one of the albums that's not really my favorite. It's very much a Roger Waters, very depressing album. There are some nice guitar pieces from David Gilmour. This didn't feature Richard Wright because he'd already left the band after The Wall. There was a fallout between him and Roger Waters. The Final Cut is what I'm talking about. The Post-War Dream, Your Possible Pasts, One of the Few, The Hero's Return. So once again, it's all about war. People chatting about war in the background, a lot of special effects. Not Now John is a good track on here. Two Suns and the Sunset. Produced by Roger Waters, James Guthrie and Michael Kamen. Very much a Roger Waters album. Gilmour, I think, was being shoved to one side, and this would in fact be the last album to feature the two guys together. Then Pink Floyd went in an entirely different direction with the David Gilmour-led version of the band. So yeah, bit depressing, but still a good album. So then we do get the David Gilmour era. The first album they did was A Momentary Lapse of Reason, which still featured Richard Wright. He came back into the band, Nick Mason on drums, and I think there were other guest artists on here as well. Signs of Life, Learning to Fly was a really good track. Dogs of War, nice guitar work on that. New Machine, Sorrow. There's some interesting music videos that came out around this time as well. There's a great shot of all those beds. Apparently it took them forever to put all of those out. Always interesting artwork, Pink Floyd. Lyrics as well. Album did pretty well. Obviously a lot of the guys said, oh, there's no Roger Waters, it's not Pink Floyd. But I think you have to separate this era from the earlier ones. It's a totally different beast, different sound. A lot more upbeat, but that's David Gilmour. I think that's why he wanted to get away from Roger Waters, try something different. It still had a Pink Floyd sound to it, but yeah, a bit different. Then the album called The Division Bell came out a few years later. This is 1994. Also a great album. Cluster One, What Do You Want From Me? That was a great track. Marooned, A Great Day for Freedom, Wearing the Inside Out, Coming Back to Life, Keep Talking, Lost for Words, and High Hopes. Very much a Gilmour album as well. There's a great shot of those flags. See if there's anything else. There's lyrics, of course, in here as well. Info on the band and what have you. And this would become the last studio album of Pink Floyd. There was another one which was released, and that was called The Endless River, but that was material from this album that they'd left off. It was mostly instrumental. I haven't actually purchased it. I've listened to it a few times. It doesn't do much for me. It was more of a tribute to Richard Wright. It's instrumental, very ambient kind of stuff. Nothing that sets the world on fire. I might still get it at some stage. And that was released in 2014. So that would definitely be the last studio work from Pink Floyd to come out. So there we have it. Just a few of the notable albums. I do want to mention one more. They did quite a bit of music for movies back in the 70s. And this is one called Obscured by Clouds. Also quite a cool album. It's from music from the film The Valley. Obscured by Clouds, When You're In, Burning Bridges, Mud Men, Childhood Its End, Free Fall, Stay, and Absolutely Curtains. 1972 this came out. So this would have been around the time of Dark Side of the Moon. Probably just before, just after, I think. Then the couple of live albums I want to chat about. There's one called Pulse. And this was the David Gilmour-led Pink Floyd. There's a great DVD that goes with this as well, which is that one there, which is a must-see. I mean, some of the special effects and the lead breaks and the keyboard work and this, I think, Guy Pratt on vocals here, it's just amazing. It's a must-see. You have to see this. And the CD version is also great, well recorded. And I think when I originally bought this, along the spine, you'll see there was a little red light and there was a battery inside and it would pulse, hence the name. Obviously the battery has long since run out and this was a limited edition, I think. Then I have another limited edition. This was Is There Anybody Out There? The Wall Live Pink Floyd. So this would have been in the 80s. Comes in a nice big box like that. And you open it up and there's a whole big booklet. And there's a double disc, all sorts of info inside, some great live shots. Richard Wright and the rest of the guys was really chuffed to get hold of this. And the Gerald Scarfe artwork. Of course, he did all the artwork for the original album of The Wall. So I'm not sure if this is still available, but great live snapshot of the band at that time, still with Roger Waters, obviously. And the other live DVD that I really enjoy is Live at Pompeii, where they cover, this would have been around the time after Saucerful of Secrets and Middle. So they do Echoes, Careful with That Axe Eugene, A Saucerful of Secrets, Us and Them, One of These Days, Mademoiselle Knobs, Brain Damage. So there is work on here from Dark Side of the Moon as well. Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun and Echoes. This is the director's cut on here. Original concert, track selection, director interview. So this is quite a cool one to get hold of. Early 70s Pink Floyd. And in the setting of the amphitheater in Pompeii with no audience, just the band playing with the amps and the instruments. It's really cool. So that's one to check out as well. And then lastly, I just want to chat about the album Delicate Sound of Thunder, which is also the Gilmour-led era. And this was the tour of Momentary Lapse of Reason. Also a great live album. I think this has been released on DVD as well. It was originally released on video. Shine On You Crazy Diamond, Learning to Fly, yet another movie, Round and Around, Sorrow, The Dogs of War. So you can see there's a lot of tracks from Delicate Sound of Thunder. One of These Days, Time, Money, Another Brick in the Wall, Wish You Were Here, Comfortably Numb, and Run Like Hell, which is a great up-tempo rocker from Pink Floyd. So there we have it, Pink Floyd. For me, definitely a prog rock band. They did pop stuff as well, straight ahead rock, atmospheric stuff. I think they were a band that had a unique sound. Nobody sounded like Pink Floyd. They certainly didn't sound like Yes or King Crimson or any other of the great 70s prog rock bands. They had their own sound, which I think is what you want as a band. You don't want to get in with the crowd. You want to have your own stamp. You want to have your own sound so that you're set apart from other people. So there we go. Next week's prog rock group or artist, I'm not too sure just yet, but it'll be something worthwhile. So please, guys, check me out next week again. And if you like this this video, please like and subscribe down below. Any comments are welcome, no problem. And take it easy out there. We're in for a bit of rain here in Cape Town, which is great. I'm kind of done with the heat. February is a very hot month here, so that'll be most welcome. And I'll see you guys next time. Stay tuned. There's also going to be a video coming up shortly. Top 10 songs of the one and only Jimi Hendrix. So stay tuned for that. Take it easy. Cheers.